Meanwhile, world leaders are reacting to the recent attack in Ukraine that left at least 34 persons dead, including children. We have details in the report.
United States President Donald Trump has described Russia's attack on Ukraine as a horrible thing. He says he has been told they made a mistake but did not elaborate. Donald Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, says the attack crossed any line of decency. Friedrich Merz, who is expected to take over as Germany's new chancellor next month, accused Russia of committing a serious war crime, deliberate and intended. Germany's outgoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz also condemned the attack, saying it goes to show just what Russia's supposed readiness for peace is worth. French President Emmanuel Macron accused Russia of blatant disregard for human lives, international law, and the diplomatic efforts of President Trump. He says strong measures are needed to impose a ceasefire on Russia, and France is working tirelessly toward the goal alongside its partners. Describing the attack as barbaric, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, adds, Russia was and remains the aggressor, in blatant violation of international law. She says strong measures are urgently needed to enforce a ceasefire. Europe will continue to reach out to partners and maintain strong measures on Russia until the bloodshed ends and lasting peace is achieved on Ukraine's terms and conditions. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer also reacted, saying he was appalled at Russia's horrific attack on civilians in Sumy. A spokesperson for United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says he is deeply alarmed and shocked to learn of the missile attack. He warned that attacks against civilians and civilian objects are prohibited under international humanitarian law, and any of such attacks, whether they occur, must end immediately. Sunday's double missile strike against Sumy is the deadliest attack on civilians in Ukraine this year. Another Russian missile attack, earlier this month on 4th of April, killed 20 people and injured 61 in the city of Kyiv, President Zelensky's hometown. The United Nations estimates that nearly 7 million Ukrainians are currently living as refugees.
And for more on the war between Russia and Ukraine, and of course President Trump's statement, I'm being joined by Global Affairs analyst Ejike Opa. It's good to have you join us on The World Now. Is looking to purchase missiles. You do not start a war against someone 20 times your size. How do you react to this statement by Donald Trump? And do you think Zelensky should have considered defeat and not put up a fight at all?
Look, thank you for having me. You know, anytime life is lost because of war, it touches somebody's family, it touches my heart. I am one person to say, can we avoid war? But obviously, we can't. So when you see people, see families, you see things destroyed because of ego, and I'm going to show you kind of attitude that some world leaders have. It's very, very unfortunate in 21st century. Of course, when the expression of in the elephant and the grass fight, we know who suffers. Maybe Ukraine under the former administration was encouraged to go in because we're going to give you arms, to go fight. But Russia obviously has more firepower than Ukraine, and that we are seeing evidence of that. I'm just hoping that something, prevails on the hearts of these, men and the world leaders to bring some sort of pressure on them to end this, because we shouldn't be seeing this in 21st century. It's not worth it. I don't know what the fight is for, but it goes on, and, civilians get killed, children, women, and who wants to see this? This is just very disheartening. So, Trump is right to make the statement, because, he's a very factual, truthful man. He says things that most people wouldn't say. But when you think about it, it's about, the truth. And the world is looking for truth. And, this war shouldn't have been, Zelensky should have looked at his own capacity and said, hey, okay, fine, what do we need to do? If I need to yield a piece of land or whatever, let me do it so I can save my own country, men and women. Obviously, he misled himself and he's misled.
Mr. Kwal, but there have been ongoing conversations about a possible ceasefire deal. I recall that Ukraine agreed to this over a month ago, but we saw an attack over the weekend. But before we talk about that, does this also raise the concern about how strong of an ally America is and how reliable? We saw some statements or comments made by Labour Party members who said that perhaps this is a glimpse of what is going to be going on even after the first 3 months of, the war and, Trump in office itself?
Well, look, America is geographically removed from the two countries. Love thy neighbor is a very golden rule you have to do. Obviously, the NATO countries are very weak because if you look at their military budget, they all have to rely on America giving them arms or America training their people to fight the war. So when somebody is promising you, I'm going to come to your rescue, and they are miles and miles away from you, you have to go back and reassess your own proximity and say, hey, by the time they get here, I would have been slaughtered. So the point I'm making here is, yes, America is not going to be everywhere in the world to address every issues. People have to, come together and look at proximity. Love is proximity. The nearer, the better. Love thy neighbor, respect thy neighbor. If we can't, then, there's always a compromise somewhere. But people shouldn't die. Property should not be destroyed because of, I'm just being intransigent. I'm not going to yield. And then at the end, you're running around the world looking for something to defend yourself. So my point is that Zelensky, yes, there's a ceasefire thing that I agreed. So something happened to make the other side fight because maybe the ceasefire wasn't properly, crafted or agreed to. So that's just the nature of the world. And Western European or European countries always have the conflict that trigger the rest of the world.
There is a concern, Mr. Ejike, that, if there was to be an agreement in the first place, will Russia actually, concede to this agreement? We saw the Polish foreign minister saying that he hoped that the U.S. president and his administration will see that Putin was mocking their goodwill due to the recent attack in Ukraine. Now, would you say that statement is true, considering the fact that despite effort by the U.S. to get to peace, it doesn't seem like there is an headway?
Well, again, when two people are fighting, one person is going to feel that I have an edge, and I'm going to exploit that edge. So Putin is looking at it that, hey, America can tell me what to do. If I agree to something, the other side has to agree to it. And obviously, there's no agreement that enabled him to pull back. So he saw the opportunity to attack, and then he's doing it again to get the world attention. Maybe this will be the last time, but we have seen many last times, and then there's always something else happening. So the thing is, maybe the Europeans now with the president and come back and say, hey, Putin, what do you really want? And, the whole country ain't going to come to Russia. If you want a portion of it, what are the terms and conditions you want that portion? And can we agree to something? I'm just saying that it cannot be to one person. Putin is, tapping his finger on the rest of the world, and we have to be able to deal with that. But that dealing with that has to come with what? Proximity. Ukraine has to also look at their own size and don't depend on NATO. If you can't depend on yourself to fight your enemy, then, you have to give up something. But it can't be to where I say, I'm gonna go get missiles, and then if you get the missiles, you can't even use it because the other side has more power than you do. So again, I don't live there. I don't have any family member there, but just watching it is very sad. It's saddening for me because it shouldn't be.
Very sad. I agree with you on that. But what do you think will be the long-term solution to this issue? We've seen Putin repeatedly saying perhaps a change in the leadership in Ukraine will make him come to a consensus in the first place. So what would be the alternative solution for Zelensky at this point? To agree to Trump's deal, or to have a change in leadership in Ukraine to end the war?
Well, any of those could be a factor to lead to a peaceful coexistence. I think the Ukrainians have to get good to their president. The Russians have to do, if they need to put it in some kind of vote or some kind of, public opinion survey. The Ukrainians don't want the war, the Russians don't want the war. So if they can put pressure on their own leaders and say, hey, we want to end this. What are we talking about? What is the bone of contention? And hopefully that will compel the citizens to put pressure on their president, because these are two men. this is too bad, doing this on millions of people. They have to come step forward and call on their president or their leadership and said, hey, we want to end this stuff. Let's put all the cards on the table and see which card we're going to play to our own favor, and then that's have a win-win. If that doesn't happen, the war will go on. NATO obviously has shown to be very weak, and America cannot be stretched to where, whatever we say is not going to even make any difference. So it's incumbent on the two parties, on the two countries and their citizens to now rally and tell their presidents stop. Because, the armies are people that are going to sign up to go fight this war. One unfortunate things that you see in this country is the families of those people are usually in secure places. It's the citizens, the rest of them that go there and get slaughtered. Tell them, hey, you want to fight this war? I want to see your daughter, your son in the front line. Maybe if they get killed, then they think twice about having the war continue.
And there are speculations that perhaps we should be expecting the same approach to the Israel-Gaza war. But we'll just wait to see that. Thank you for talking to us, Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Opa. Thank you for talking to us at this time.
Thank you for having me.